Hello everyone, it's the end of the regular season. We have a bunch of stuff to go through. First and foremost, this is basically going to be the Monday power rankings as well as the Tuesday how-to video. It's going to be put in one so I have more time to do things during the week. Secondly, just finished TLF Live, go and watch that. I'll leave that link in the description. I give a lot of opinions on each game. This one, not a lot's going to be about the games. It's all going to be about skimming through the bottom half of the power rankings and getting into the playoffs, into the meat, into the beef of the whole thing. So just to start off straight away, last place, entering the finishing the year, is the Barcelona Dragons. Honestly, all of the hasn't changed, right? So we've got Barcelona, we've got Sekish Fehérvar, which I've just learned is the correct way to say it, Sekish Fehérvar. At number 16, 15, Milan, 14, Prague Lions, 13, Helvetic Mercenaries, 12, Hamburg Sea Devils, 11, Frankfurt Galaxy, 10, Berlin Thunder, and 9, Warsaw Panthers. We'll go through each one of them, but we'll have that all on the screen for you. Barcelona, hard end of the year. You know, they put up a bit of a fight with Milan. They kept it close. It was like 36-36 at one point. They just pulled away in the fourth quarter. Unfortunate that they weren't able to sort themselves out. Maybe next year, we don't know. I don't know personally. I would say if I had any kind of inkling if they were going to be back next year, but I generally don't know. I guess we'll see. I would like to see them in the LNFA or something. I think that'd be interesting. Sekish Fehérvar at 16. They put up some points, and Roby was a bright spark. I like they've committed to Mangle. I hope he comes back next year to show a bit of development around him. I think that would be really cool if they just said, look, he's our guy. He's young. He's obviously talented. He's done a good job. Second half of the year, he's got a little bit pick heavy, but generally, throughout the year was pretty good. They have some good pieces on defense. I just don't think that American D-line works. Like, Jabari Regan's fantastic, don't get me wrong. And Crenshaw will have moments, but I just don't think it works to have two defensive ends. I think Roche have really exposed the difficulty of doing that when it comes to screens and whatnot. 15, Milan, obviously. Flores Calderon needed more of the ball. He showed that, 284 yards. He was my MVP coming into this. Milan, obviously, could be a powerhouse. Obviously. Anyone who says that they couldn't be is either an idiot who hasn't watched the tape. They very clearly have a couple of really solid guys in that team. They've lost every single offensive line they had last year. They've lost a ton of Italian talent to other teams. Jordan Bua, Alessandro Vergani, Grillo over in the fucking Italian league. There's so many good players they could have. The board needs to sort out. The board need to sort out the coaching. They need to sort out the staffing. They need to sort out whatever the fuck is going on over there. Either that or start the team. I'm gonna be real. Like, they need to sort it out. Because Milan, Italy itself is a really good footballing nation, but they've just not put together for whatever reason. And, well, it's that reason. They couldn't attract the top talent. And, unfortunately, they remain at 15 even with a win. 14, Prague Lions, close with the Panthers. That's the reason why they've stayed up. They've not gone down. It's because they were winning in the first quarter. Or they were doing what they do always in the first quarter. Again, some bright sparks, some close games, some blowouts. I think maybe this is obviously a better rendition than last year. They got some stuff to build off, but they absolutely need to get that offensive line sorted. I've talked about all year. Helvetic Mercenaries, 1-10 or 1-11 rather, is not accurate of their overall season. Like, they could have won a couple of games against the Dragons. Obviously, they could have beat Milan the second time, but they just didn't. Spiller, 1,000 yards. Fucking yes. John Falk, happy retirement. I doubt you'll ever see this, John, but happy retirement. You're a legend of the game. He got the single season most tackles for a European linebacker. Also got that pick six. Obviously, how can you forget against the Raiders? Great seasons for him. Great season for Milan. Carlton, I still think is an MVP level quarterback. MVP level? At higher left level, I'm coming down with the MVP. My bad, Carlton. But I love you. But as a top, there's about 7 MVP level quarterbacks. You never know. He could get in there with a good team. But, like, he had an average of 4.4 sacks against him this season. Every game that he played. Like, he's one of the most sacked ELF quarterbacks. Let this sink in, right? Carlton Aiken is one of the most sacked quarterbacks in ELF history. He has played 9 games this year. And just counting those, one of the most active quarterbacks of ELF history. incredible. Incredible. Get an offensive line. You've obviously got Spiller. You've obviously got an absolute metric shit ton of talent on defense when it comes to Swiss players. They just need a couple more pieces on offense, build an offensive line, they would. And they've got Aiken, who I think is a really good quarterback. They got AFB or Robinson. I don't give a fuck who you sign. Sign one of them. I don't care. Both of them are really, really good. And then try and come in next year. Honestly, I think we could see them and exit the teens potentially in the future, but that's just me. Hamburg, disaster of a year. Absolute disaster. They started strong, lost 10 on the bounce, or 9 on the bounce for a lot. Changes to the callback, which I don't think they needed. Poor allocation of e-spots, not enough investment on the offensive line, and the defense wasn't good enough for the majority of the season. That's pretty much what I've got at Hamburg. They just kind of annoyed me a lot. I'm going to be real. So, yeah. Similar situation. Frankfurt, also another bad year. They fell short often. To be honest, they made some bad calls. They had some bad injuries. Granted, like that's obviously a factor. They just never really took off the ground. They were never the team that I thought they were going to be a positive. I didn't think they made the playoffs, but I didn't think they'd be fucking this bad. Anyway, they got a lot to figure out. Costing apparently is going to stay, then some people say he's going to leave. They're going to get an OC in the DC new, which I think is a good call. I know they're costing. The commentator said in the last game they're the only team without a full-time head coach, which is fucking ridiculous. Hire Costing as a full-time head. I know he's a police officer. If he can't do it, or he doesn't want to do it, or he can be an advisor role or whatever, he can do whatever he wants to do. He's been a legend of this team. He's been there for nearly 20 years. You can at least do him the service of getting him something, even if it's just like a positional coach that he can do part-time. Bring in someone full-time. Absolutely ridiculous a team this big doesn't have a full-time head coach, or a full-time coach in general. Berlin. Blown halves. That they literally could be in the playoffs if it wasn't for that. They had so much talent on this team. Carl Kitchens is a monster, broke his own record. Obviously, he breaks it every year, but he's just an incredible, probably 3-time defensive player of the year. And if they just had a little bit more consistency, they would have been a positive team. Warschau 6-6. They went 500, but callback carousel early in the season killed them. They had some really interesting end of the season games. The one against Prague wasn't that. But they did a really good job in making some of these games competitive, and I would like to see more of that next season, if we will. I'm not so sure, but Norwood, I'm not sure if they're going to return him as a quarterback, if they're going to return him as a receiver, if they're going to return with him at all, I don't know. But they have some obvious very talented Polish players in that team, and I would like to see them compete, because we all thought they were going to compete a lot more. AJ's just AJ, like he might even get 200 fucking tackles next season. He got touchdown as well, like during the year. Like AJ's a freak, so he's obviously the gem of that team. When he comes back, not so sure. Everyone is pretty much on one-year contracts, right? So we see a lot of rotation. At 8, Cologne, 6-6, 500. It's very funny how we think about 500 for Cologne. Is, oh my god, they did so well. And then Warschau is a pretty big failure considering where they were meant to be. I'm talking really fast because I'm just trying to get to the playoffs, so I do apologise. Cologne, 6-6. Weed was too inconsistent. And I love Isaiah Weed, I really do. I think he's great. Carshill's fantastic. I really hope he comes back. They've got some really talented players, both Fender, Lorax, Frolik, some of the offensive linemen, some of the defensive pieces. If they can just retain some of the talent, because you forget they've had Lewis Guy, they had Darren Okungargwe, they've had Fabian Vents, they're going to have Lucky this year. There are so many players that could be playing for Cologne but aren't. If they can retain some of this talent, Chad Rolland, another one. If they can retain some of these players this season, they could be a playoff team. But they need to find a way to beat these big teams, otherwise they're not going to do it. And number 7, missing out on the playoffs with a big fucking loss to the Munich Ravens, where they got slapped and Cozy Perry didn't play well. The running game didn't get off the ground at all in this game, and it was raining a shit ton, I know that. That's a factor with Munich too. They had to play in the same weather conditions, same field, same instances, a lot of rain, but Raiders really let themselves down. Like they didn't play well at all. Like offensively didn't play well. Defensively got absolutely gashed by the run for like 200 odd yards. Chad Jeffries got 100 yards rushing. Insane. I don't think I've ever seen him do that before. They fall 2 spots since the first team to fall out of the playoffs and outside the top 6. Heading into top 6 and a playoff berth in the first ever international game, the Madrid Bravos First year of existence. Now some people said, oh, Vienna came in the first year and got the playoffs. No, they didn't, because they were already a real team. Madrid didn't exist. They get into the playoffs in the first year. Rips probably coached the year just for doing that, in my opinion. 8-4. They get in through points, close, but now they're going to appreciate. They got to go against Round. We'll get to that in a minute, but hell of a close game for them, I think, coming into the playoffs. But again, we'll get to that. Number 5, Munich, up 2 spots. I liked the way they dominated Tyrrell, and that's really going to be the blueprint for how they take on whoever they play against. Whether they're obviously going to play against Paris, we'll get to that in a minute. But that's going to be the blueprint. They stopped a mobile quarterback with a good run game. They stopped him. They kept him behind the line. They pressured him immediately. This is going to be exactly, I think, the same tactic they run with him in against Paris. And falling 1 spot, we have Paris. Now, give me a minute to explain. They look great all year. They've only ever lost to Rhine, which is important to mention. They've only ever lost to Rhine. Why they fall 1 spot? Because this is about how I think they are lining up for the playoffs. And Paris would be a great team all year. They're inexperienced in the playoffs. They've had a ton of key injuries all year. We've not even really seen Anthony Mahonu getting fully back into health. Chandler Jones only just coming back from injury now. We'll see how he looks. There's a lot of question marks on Paris still. Edwards, of course. Question marks on Edwards and whether or not he can take the team to a championship. I think he's good enough to do it, but we'll see, right? It's a big question mark throughout. He's got the Jadrian treatment. I think someone said in the insiders chat that we have, come over first, Jamal, Alex, go and watch Jamal's video. Go and watch me and Alex on the left live. I'll link both of them in the description. This is the Jadrian treatment. Jadrian was the best. He was such a good quarterback. He just can't win that big game. Zach Edwards, really great quarterback, can't win that big game. It's very similar. Can he do it? I think he has definitely got a chance, and I would like to see that first game is going to be very telling, I think, how he steps in, because he's only ever played 1 playoff game. He's the most played regular season quarterback in the ELF history, but he's only ever played 1 playoff game in Barcelona 2 years ago. So we'll see how that looks when he's coming in with a new team, and it's going to be really interesting. We'll get to that in a minute. Vienna, number 3. 12-0, perfect year. Why are they number 3? Why are they fall 1 spot? Because they need to play more teams, more battle-tested teams. I haven't seen them play the Raiders. I haven't seen them do Raiders recently. I haven't seen them play the West. I haven't seen them play the Raiders, like Ravens rather, or Rhine or Munich. I keep saying the same teams. I'm fucking tripping because I'm so excited for the playoffs. Anyway, I haven't seen them play a full team. That's what I'm saying. Like a big powerhouse team. I haven't seen them do that. I don't think they play one of the playoffs teams. Which I don't think. I might be wrong. Comment section. If I'm right, then tell me I'm right. If I'm wrong, tell me how much of an idiot I am and give me my engagement. Anyway, number 2, Stuttgart Surge. I think Stuttgart are lined up very nicely for a playoff run. Great players. Well-rested players. Riley, awesome quarterback. Receivers, all phenomenal. Congratulations to Guy becoming the all-time receiving yards leader in ELF history. Good for him. Amazing receiver, pioneer, and also Hall of Famer at the same time. It's weird. Meyer, Stewart Jr. Great players all over the field on defense. Well, Chad, Fettig, Wilson, Simeon, Moambo, Wenzelberger. There's so many great players. Amazing players all over. They're number 2. Because they've got the experience as well. That's important. They've been to the fucking final before. Vienna, this team is different. They've got some Champions experience, but not a ton compared to other teams. Paris haven't been to the final. A couple players with Champions experience as well. Munich, never made playoffs. Madrid, new team. Again, some people with Champions experience, but not as much. And number 1, still, Ryan Fire. Championship experience, a former MVP, a probably current MVP, one of the best offensive lines in Europe football ever. It's incredible. The best defense in the league in points conceded, Nick pointed out to me today on the LF Live, which blew my fucking mind because they're playing in the most competitive conference. They got Madrid and Paris in the same conference. They're both playoff teams. They have the best defense in the league. How crazy is that? Best offense in terms of rushing with Glenn. coupled with a great defense, it could be really, really tough to stop. But that will take us into a transition into our playoff bracket. Now, let's talk about some of these games. The obvious ones. We can just put them in a corner. Stuttgart and Vienna are on bye. I don't really need to talk about that. The 1 and 2 seed are obviously on bye. So let's talk about Madrid versus Ryan. I'm not going to have a bunch of fun graphics over because I don't know how to do that. I'm not Maxi. Maxi's great. He's the best in the business as a producer. I do not have that level of producing on this channel. So let's just get into my thoughts and feelings on Madrid versus Ryan. This is obviously game 3. Madrid won the first one, Ryan won the second one, and that's a big thing for me. I think Ryan beat they didn't beat the brakes off them. They were pretty convincingly comfortable against Madrid the second time round, and I think that's gonna stick. I think that the Ryan Fire, I'm not gonna put a beating on them, but I think they're gonna win by about 2 possessions. It's Obi versus Glenn, 2 British running backs. It's Duncan versus Che, 2 quite gunslinging quarterbacks. It's 2 great defenses who don't know how to cause turnovers. Like, the teams are actually not too dissimilar when you really break it down into like generalizations, I guess. But I am going to go with Ryan. They've got more experience. I think they've got more depth in their team as well. I think they've showed more adversity to come through more adversity, and their second game I think is more telling than the first. The first, I'm not going to call it a fluke, but it had some fluky instances that I do not think will be replicated in this game. So I'm going to take Ryan. Probably about 25 to maybe 14 or 25 to 10. I think they should be all right. It's also obviously in Ryan's home stadium because they got the higher seating, and that's going to be very interesting. Game 2. And I'm going to talk about this one quite a bit. And again, this video ain't going to be long, but Munich versus Paris Musketeers. Munich 9-3, Paris 10-2. Now, it's in Paris as well. Important. We've got Chad versus Zach. Now, Chad's more efficient. Edwards, I think, has more of that big playability. That's the difference. You know, Edwards can make more mistakes, some fumbles, some interceptions. Chad is also mobile. Don't sleep on him mobility. Well, he got 100 yards in the last game. But he's a lot more of an efficient pocket passer, pick you apart, kind of kill you off it that way, kind of quarterback. So that's a very interesting dynamic. Running back wise, obviously goes to Munich. You got Rodney, who's arguably this week's MVP. You got Tomiwa, who's a scat back, can play absolutely everywhere. Phenomenal player all round, and I love him as a player. I think he's one of the best running backs in the league. Compared to Colombo, who has been good in the second half. Glenn gave him his flowers on the 11th lap last week, but he's not as good as those 2. You know, he's a good player, no doubt. They got Makari, they got Allman if he's fit. It's a great running back room, but Munich have got the highest of highs. Paris is very balanced, but Munich have just got a high level of running backs. Receivers, going to have to probably give the edge to Paris. Take Adams had a great year. Austin Mitchell got 1,000 yards. You got LaRose. You got maybe Mahanwu. So you got check out Sal. Like, that's an amazing receiver room. Munich as well. Malik Stanley, monster. Marvin Rouge, phenomenal player. Massively underrated. But not as much depth in that position as someone like Paris. Offensive line, both of these so good. You got Letman, Thomas, Polly, Gasparo. Like, there's so many great players on Paris. And then you got Garrett Brent, you got Mana Worthman, you got just so many great fucking players on Dominic Antra. Like, there's so many amazing players on Munich's offensive line. Obviously, they're coached by Hall of Fame fucking Joe Thomas, so helps as well. Defensively, I think they stack up. It's very depending on if Paris are fit and healthy. Obviously, we saw them play with Chandler Jones. Is he fully 100%? Munich's still going to be playing John Cole at DB, not his natural position. I'm going to have to probably give the edge to Paris on this one, I think. Both of them have big interior D-lines. Both of them have strong linebacker cores. I think Paris a little bit more athletic. I think Paris have a slightly better defense, and that's what I think is going to help. I'm going to go for Paris. I think the defense wins it for them. Edwards gets that playoff win. Munich crash out, but still very, very respected. I think it's a very admirable victory for them, and we'll see Ryan and Paris advance into the next round. Now that is my final thoughts on those 2 games and the how-tos, I guess, kind of. If you like this, like and subscribe. Obviously, I compiled this into a short 20-minute-ish kind of discussion without much graphics, but I do apologize if you were looking for more graphic stuff. But we are going to be doing a lot of film study over the next couple of days for the underappreciated video. I want to get it out kind of Tuesday, Wednesday-ish. Did the 11 Lives Day. I'm not going to be doing how-tos because this is basically the same thing of just me talking about the playoff games. And hopefully we get some really, really good ones. Obviously it's this weekend. I'll be streaming both Saturday and Sunday, so tune in. Check out the links in the description to Jamal and to ELF Live. And I think that's all I've got. What a fucking season, guys. I'm getting a little bit emotional, a little bit reminiscent about the year. Thinking about the good old days of just week 2, and week 4, and week 9. You know what I mean? It seems like so far a lot long ago. But as for plans, underrated. It's all going to be defensive players. That's going to be coming out at some point this week. Underrated offensive players, probably next week or the week after. Alexander Borkovic, player evaluation, going to be happening at some point in the future as well. London Monarch stream, probably this week for running backs. Kind of a difficult one to do because everyone knows what I'm going to put in there. But we'll talk about running backs and whatnot. And I think that's it. I might do like a reacted to some of my bad or good takes during the season on I put on this channel. Some of the All-Star and, you know what I mean, those ones. I didn't want to do one for Helvetic in the end because they had so many change-ups and positions. But that's the idea. Stay tuned for that. Should be good. Much appreciated. What a season. Thank you everyone for every second that you've been with me this year. It's been great. Plenty more in the future. Plenty more in the bank for going into next year and finishing off this one. So thank you very much. See you next time. Thank you again and stay sharp and goodbye.